Welcome to our series, Your Health Today. I'm your host, Bev Muendel-Atherstone. I'm the chair of the local chapter of Friends of Medicare, which is a nonprofit organization working to ensure our public health care system is there for all of us. Today, we are pleased to present the third episode of our series, and today's episode is about a hidden disability. We welcome our guests, Veronika and Dan Kordikowski. Welcome.
Hello.
Dan and
Thank
Veronika both deal with a hidden disability. Veronika and Dan, would you like to tell our viewers what hidden disability you deal with and why it's hidden?
We both deal with a hidden disability called schizophrenia, and it's called a hidden disability because unlike some disabilities where if you have a broken arm or you use a wheelchair, people can see right away, or if you're using a cane, people can see right away that you have some sort of disability. Our disability is in our mind. It's a mental health issue, so that's why it's called hidden. But some people might see our faces if we're having a hard day or hard time. We might get like what's called a freak out face, where you kind of look scared or anxious, and then people might think something's going on with you.
Yeah, so sometimes you said people misunderstand you, or either how you look or your behavior. And people might interpret that as that you're up to something, that you're shifty or you're lying, when actually you're frightened.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So could you explain more about how schizophrenia impacts your day-to-day life?
Well, schizophrenia is affects the operating system of your body, which is your brain. And so sometimes anxiety and paranoia is paramount, or second guessing what you're seeing or what you're hearing, and always wondering what others are thinking, what their intentions are.
So could you explain what paranoia is and maybe give us an example?
Paranoia is where you feel like someone or something is following you or out to get you, out to harm you in some way or fashion.
Okay, and there's another term that I think people associate with schizophrenia, and that's psychosis. Can you tell us what psychosis is?
Yes, so psychosis is when you're experiencing the paranoia and anxiety to a higher degree, and where you're detached from reality. You're more into your headspace, where your brain is giving you false information.
And what kind of false information might you have?
The false information that you might be getting is that people are following you or talking about you, watching you, things like that.
So you might hear this or see this?
Yes, and you hear it in your brain, but it feels like you're hearing it from an actual person.
Well, that sounds very terrifying.
It is terrifying.
Now, you've described a very tough way to go through life. Could you, I think you brought along some visuals to show us about what schizophrenia is. Yeah.
So we have this t-shirt that we got made for International Day of Schizophrenia Awareness. And that's on May the 24th every year. And this shirt says, they whispered to her, "You cannot withstand the storm." She whispered back, "I am the storm." And then that just says schizophrenia awareness.
And Dan, you want to hold yours up and read it?
Sure. My shirt says, "We don't know how strong we are until being strong
Is
the only choice we have." Mental health awareness.
Thank you very much for bringing those T-shirts. And that's every May.
Every May 24th. Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
It's international.
Oh, it's an International Awareness Day.
Yeah.
Yes. It's too bad that on the TV and the cop shows, quite often they'll portray a bad guy as someone having schizophrenia. And so instead of educating the public about schizophrenia, they make people afraid.
They perpetuate stigma. Would you like to talk a bit about stigma?
Stigma is basically a mark of disgrace on the infamy of a person, if I'm not mistaken. And stigma can be brought on in different ways. Like, people out there will be talking in a casual conversation about working at the Schizophrenia Society. And they'll be like, oh, that must be an interesting job, because they think that it's the hacks and stuff that happen on a daily basis where people are actually friends with each other. And I'm fortunate to do partnership presentations to educate people out there about what it's like to live with mental illness. So, and my favorite is the police recruits. So, and my wife does a great job of doing what she does at the Schizophrenia Society.
That's right. I lead the positive journaling group, and it's a group where we look up prompts that are positive about your life, and then you write about it. And then when people have a hard time at their home, they can go back to that journal and look at all the good stuff that's actually happening in their life. It's a little bit of behavior modification by going back and looking at the positives.
So it's kind of like positive reframing.
Yes. Yeah.
So you take a bad situation and you look at it through a positive view, and then it improves how you think about it.
Yeah, if you look back at your journal, it can remind you of all the good things that you have in your life.
That sounds very good. Well, it's really tough when we hear how people can stigmatize people with mental illness, how people can respond to others with mental illness, and how the television industry and movie industry can perpetuate myths. That sounds pretty bad. In spite of all this, somehow you two found each other. So can you tell us about your journey?
Sure. We met at the Schizophrenia Society. I had thought initially, when I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, I was diagnosed very late in life at age 36. Initially, they diagnosed me with anxiety and depression when I was 18. And for many, many years, I was on different kinds of cocktails and medications to deal with that. And then finally, when I was 36, they diagnosed me with schizophrenia. And I thought, oh, great. How am I ever going to find a partner now who would want someone with schizophrenia? And the answer is someone with schizophrenia.
That somebody happened to be me.
And we met how?
Okay. Veronica's sister came down from Germany, and she says, I think that fellow wanted to talk to you, because Veronica hid behind her sister, so I wouldn't be able to talk to her. So she's, I guess you could say, she's just a little smidgen on the shy side.
And I think this was at a walk, a schizophrenia walk.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah, how lovely.
And then I smidgened in by talking to Veronica's parents and liking them, and hopefully that was a two-way street. And basically, we dated for
A couple of years.
2.5 years, and then we went to Mexico. Valentine's Day of 2012, I proposed to her. So, and she said yes, and the rest was history. So we've been married for 11 years in August, and together for 14 years. So,
That's a wonderful story. Thank you very much.
thank you.
So you're describing this complex mental illness and how you found each other. So Veronika talked a little bit about how her mental health journey first began and when she was diagnosed. Dan, when were you diagnosed?
Okay. I was similar to Veronika in a certain way that 18, 19, it was originally for anxiety, depression, go through all the years of having a wrong diagnosis. And then at 27, I was diagnosed with catatonic schizophrenia. And basically, I've been diagnosed with catatonic schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, bipolar. Let's see, what else is there? I'd have to say obsessive compulsive disorder because I can't stand seeing shopping carts left in the foyer where people just leave them, so I put them away for them. Not to complain about it, but it just bothers me.
So you've both been on medications for a long time, since the teenage years. Dan, you 18 or 19, Veronika 18. And they started you off with medications for depression, anxiety, all these things for decades. So these were wrong diagnoses initially, so I assume the wrong medications. But do these medications work?
Yes, the medications do work. The problem with some of the medications, and the problem with, because psychiatry is mostly estimation and guesstimation, so it's not an exact science. So they put you on medication and it may work for a while, but then your body builds up a tolerance to it. And tolerance is not the same as addiction. Tolerance just means that you have to have more and more of that medication for it to work properly. And so over the many years, the medications have been either increased or decreased, other medications added on so that you're on a cocktail of medication. And sometimes this meant that you'd have to have a stay at the hospital for like a week or 2 weeks or however long it took to change the medications, so that you're not at home suffering with medication that's not working. So when they bring you in the hospital, they can change the medication quickly and observe you every day.
So how long would you be in hospital then changing a medication?
So for myself, it was just a couple of weeks. Other people, it can be a month or so.
Okay, so you've talked about medications, and I'm wondering, what side effects did you notice on these medications? Because we hear that sometimes people go off their medications because the side effects are so bad.
Okay. Some of the side effects are weight gain, which is a big one when you're on really old medications. And I myself have put on 100 pounds since I was put on these medications. Some of the other side effects can be the opposite, that you have nausea, upset stomach.
What about sleeping?
Sleeping as well. It can interfere your sleeping or make you sleep more often.
So you gain weight because you're hungry?
Not necessarily because you're hungry. It doesn't seem to matter how much you're eating. With these medications, it just seems that they put the weight on you, and they're not really sure of the causal correlation. Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to eat more,
Right.
but somehow it changes your metabolism.
That's right.
It would appear.
Yeah.
So that's pretty scary. You can either be having these delusions or hallucinations, hearing the talking in your ears or seeing things, or you can be putting on massive amounts of weight.
Yes.
And I guess that has a lot to say about our pharmaceutical industry that doesn't really care just as long as you need to take the medications.
With everything, it has a side effect, right? So some are good positive side effects and some are negative side effects. Like for me, I'd rather be on medication and be a little bit heavier and then hopefully after hockey lose weight than to not be on medications, be slender, and not be focusing well in the functions of daily life.
Okay, that's very important, and that's what your choice is now. That's why you take all these medications.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So how do you know, Veronika, you talked about tolerance. How do you know when your medication is no longer working? And Dan, you were going to talk about something there. Perseverating?
Okay. I know that it's having trouble because I perseverate. Perseveration means to repeat things over and over. And basically, I've always wanted to become either a city police officer, an RCMP officer. And I go over and over it to especially my lifelong partner and let her know that I'm sad that that never happened. And I feel like I'm being punished for the bad moves that I made in high school and college, and to end up suffering later in life, where she ends up telling me, "You're not being punished. We all just go through the hoops just differently." And yeah, is that fair to say?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And Veronika, how about you? How do you know when your medication is no longer working?
For me, I get murmuring, which is the first sign that I'm not doing well. And murmuring to me is one step below hearing voices. It's hearing something that sounds like voices, but I can't make out exactly what they're saying. And I get that with white noises too. So even if I'm feeling okay, if we have the air conditioning on in the house or the heater in the winter, I'll hear the murmuring in the white noise. And so I have to convince myself that it's not someone talking about me or to me or anything, it's just the white noise. But when that noise starts interfering with my day-to-day activities, then I know that I'm probably needing a med adjustment.
Do you help each other?
Yes, we do.
Know when something's happening?
Yes, we do help each other. And it's good that you brought that up. We have what is called a PRN. It's a medication you take as needed. And so for myself, I have Ativan. And it just helps relax the brain so that it's not overworking. And Dan has one that's called
Olanzapine, which is the king of weight gain.
But that helps Dan when
The voices.
with the voices as well. Yeah.
So it helps to quell the voices. It makes them quiet.
Yeah. And as you can tell, for each person, the PRN that your psychiatrist chooses is tailored to mix together well with your other medications that you're on.
But then you take those, so then how do you know you need to change your medication?
If the voices or noises or whatever are interfering too often.
Even when you take the PRN,
Yeah.
this extra medication. So a lot is up to you then to figure out when things are not going well.
Well, we see our psychiatrist on a regular basis. And Dan and I we have the same psychiatrist, which is a little bit unusual, but it's because we're very open as a couple and we support each other totally. And so instead of going to separate psychiatrists, we see the same one. And we see him very often so that he can keep tabs on exactly how well we're doing.
Well, that sounds fabulous. That sounds very good. So Dan, in 2018, your symptoms changed dramatically following a heart attack, and you were admitted to hospital.
Yes. Okay, I'll touch up on that. is that in 2018, I believe it was November 23rd of 2018, I was brought into the Lethbridge Regional Hospital for a heart attack, and my wife and my mother-in-law brought me there, and then paramedics brought me there, and then they brought me up to Calgary as well. And then I was issued what they call a stent.
Yeah, I think it went into your artery to open it.
What happened following that? I hear that then you ended up in the hospital for catatonia.
Yeah, I was diagnosed at that time with catatonia schizophrenia, because what happens in catatonia is that the muscles stiffen, makes it hard to talk, eat, move, and I lost a lot of weight because I couldn't eat. I even had people feed me stuff in small intervals, and the nurses would end up putting my antipsychotics and whatever medication into the yogurt containers where I'd eat up and get my 2-for-1, I guess you could say.
So they would put your meds right into the yogurt just to make sure that you took it.
Yeah.
That must have been very difficult. Do you remember much of that time?
I don't, unfortunately.
And how long were you in hospital at that time?
Approximately 4 months.
And how did you're here now, how did you get out of the hospital?
Well, I basically willed through it, and the 2023, I ended up being in there for 8 months, and I just basically was getting ECT treatments, where they register amongst the brain, and they found me good enough to go home because I proved that I was able to shower, that I was able to eat, that I was able to do all these things. Like, my wife was my rock, and same as my mother-in-law. And they came to see me every day, and I thank them for that.
Okay, so you were hospitalized twice for catatonic schizophrenia, so once for 3 to 4 months, and then what was it that they gave you so that you could get out the first time? Do you remember that? Maybe Veronika remembers.
Yeah, so the first time they found that 2 milligrams of Ativan, an injection of Ativan, would help Dan to come out of the catatonia.
Oh.
And so that's what they used the first time around. The second time that he was in the hospital, the one nurse remembered that he had been given a shot of Ativan. So she gave him a shot of Ativan, and the next day he was more lucid, but it didn't stay. And then one of the psychiatrists had just a patient similar to Dan, and he had been giving him 24 milligrams of Ativan to come out of whatever his psychosis was. And so 24 milligrams is a huge dose, but they slowly titrated to that level for Dan. And Dan came out of catatonia with the injections of 24 milligrams a day. But then they had to get him stabilized on other medication before he could come home. And then that's when he started the ECTs, which is electric convulsive therapy. And it's not as scary as it used to be in the old days. It's just 2 little pads put on your head that send an electric shock. And the downside from that is that Dan does have some memory loss, and so I have to help him remember things that happened in the past. But the upside is he's home and he's functional.
Yeah, so that was quite a long time, 8 months in hospital, And as I understand from you two, the doctors tried everything in creation. This one nurse remembered Ativan had worked, and then the psychiatrist thought about trying these massive doses of Ativan, but they couldn't continue that because it's way too much. And then they did electric shock. Now, you're telling me that unlike the movie, again, we're back to the movies that like to do these things, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is pretty scary and shows electric shock therapy as a very scary thing.
Yeah.
In modern psychiatric medication, ECT is used as it's sort of a last resort. But
Last resort and supplement, yeah.
But it does help for depression and catatonia.
Yes.
So now, as I hear, Veronika put together a diary of each of the days of the 8 months when you were in with catatonia. What was it like when she presented to you this diary, this huge diary of your hospitalization? November 15th, the first one is the November 15th to 2018 to February 2019, and then the next one was even longer,
Yeah,
8 months.
Oh, that's great.
And so you can go in here and you can find out what actually was happening, what your life was like, and who you met. And I think she has pictures and everything in here.
Yeah, she's a great wife.
So, Veronika, what was it like for you when Dan was in hospital for such a long time? Because you yourself are dealing this entire time with your mental illness.
Yeah, so initially in 2018?
Yeah.
Because it was a shorter stay, it wasn't as hard, but just the unknown, not knowing what catatonia was or how he would get out of it, if he would get out of it. That played a lot on my mental wellness. But I have a strong team of people around me, my friends and my family, especially my parents. And so I was able to manage it. Same with the second time around. I had lots of different people giving me rides and bringing food to me at the house and different things like that, just supporting me. And because I knew Dan had come out of catatonia before, I knew this time, although it was longer, I trusted in the doctors and that they would be able to get him out of it this time as well.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. It sounds like a continuous story of hardship and at the same time a lot of support from family and friends. And it sounds like the best way that people can help you is to be supportive and rather than imposing stigmas on you.
Yeah, and one other way that people can help is if you're working in a store and you see someone with a freak out face or a confused face, don't automatically assume that they're going to be there to shoplift or whatever. You know, because I've been followed around so many stores because the security think I'm up to something when I'm just having a hard time dealing with the amount of people and the noise going on.
So some of your symptoms get aggravated by just the noise in the shops.
Yeah.
And then the security thinks, oh, this is a shoplifter for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so giving you that option, or maybe coming up and saying, can I help you? Is there something going on?
Yes. Yeah.
So actually asking you, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.